Hello, it's 22 hours GMT here in Accra, and from the news hub at Adisawe Kanda, I'm Stephen Ente. This is news at 10. Let's first start with the day's major news highlights. The Supreme Court has ordered the Auditor General to immediately begin surcharging persons found to have misappropriated state funds. The 7-member panel of the Apex Court also ordered that, where applicable, criminal action be taken by the Attorney General against such persons. The United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement has deported 63 Ghanaian nationals to Ghana. The U.S. Embassy said in a statement that it is in accordance with their final orders of removal. The deportees who arrived in Ghana on Wednesday morning aboard a chartered flight were mostly handcuffed. An Accra Circuit Court has granted bail to the 2 Russians and 2 Ukrainians arrested in Ashanti region for engaging in illegal mining. The judge, Abuaji Tando, says he was inclined to grant them bail after looking at the substance of the application. Those are our major news highlights. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7. If you have the TuneIn app, you can also listen to us. Up next is the big one. Welcome. Now, the Supreme Court has ordered the Auditor General to immediately begin surcharging persons found to have misappropriated state funds. The 7-member panel of the Apex Court also ordered that, where applicable, criminal action must be taken by the Attorney General against such persons.
The Supreme Court decision comes after pressure group Occupy Ghana in June last year instituted an action against the Auditor General. It sought an order of the court to compel the Auditor General not to only report on financial misappropriations by public officials, but also to take steps to retrieve all state funds that may have gone into wrong hands. On June 22 last year, it filed a case against the Auditor General and Attorney General at the Supreme Court. It sought from the Supreme Court a declaration that the Auditor General's omission, failure, refusal or neglect to issue any disallowances and surcharges, and as appears in his successive report since the coming into force of the Constitution, violates the Constitution. It further sought an order of the Supreme Court directed at the Auditor General to issue disallowances and surcharges to and in respect of all persons and entities found in his relevant successive report to have engaged in any of the above. Reading the consequential orders, Justice Sophia Kufu ordered the Auditor General to, with immediate effect, begin surcharging persons found to have misappropriated monies belonging to the state as stipulated in Article 1877B of the 1992 Constitution.
Right, let's speak to the Auditor General himself, Daniel Owusu. He's joining us on the telephone lines now. Good evening, sir. Thank you. We're grateful. Also, we have on Skype Daniel Sapong from Daniel Sapong, who is from the Occupy Ghana. He's joining us on Skype. We'll be dealing with him pretty shortly. Let's go on to the telephones. Good evening, sir. Thank you. We're grateful you could join us. Hello, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good. So does this ruling now give you more room, your office, to begin surcharging people you've cited in your reports?
Yeah, I think it rather gives clarity on the provisions of the Constitution because hitherto there have been 2 schools of thought. One school of thought is of the view that when the Auditor General produces the annual report to Parliament, then that is in fulfillment of the requirement of surcharging and disallowing, because in those reports, irregularities or infractions are recorded or reported to Parliament. But there's a second school of thought with the view that No, in addition to the report, which is contained in clause 2 and 3 of the Article 187 you refer to, there is another clause, which is the clause 7b. That one requires that expenditures which are contrary to law can be disallowed and surcharged. And so today's ruling by the Supreme Court, I think, brings finality to that argument. It is now clear what is supposed to be done and what is not expected of the Auditor General.
Right, so staying within the issue of clarity, we want to know whether since 2000 or perhaps a little bit back, you have ever been able to surcharge anyone at all. I mean, we want to put that in context if it's something that you've done before.
Yeah, if you say you, I think I could suppose you are referring to...
No, not your person, I beg your pardon, the Auditor General's office.
One of my predecessors actually surcharged some officials from one of the government departments, I think Department of National Lotteries.
Right.
But they contested the surcharge, and when the case went to the court, the High Court, it was thrown away. The charge was thrown away. So we didn't want to go the same way. So now what we've done is that we have a unit responsible for doing that. That is doing the disallowance and the surcharge. And the team there have gone through a 1-week training at the Judicial Training Institute, including myself, so that we can know the type of evidence which is admissible to court and what information if we provide. Just in case somebody challenges the disallowance and the surcharge, we can still sustain our position.
Right, and I also know that the Supreme Court also ordered that the Auditor General's office should prefer criminal charges against those people who are surcharged. I want to find out from you whether in thinking about executing this, that you've put in place some structures or communication linkages with the Attorney General's department to make this possible and easy.
Well, I've not seen the judgment itself yet, but the briefing that I received from my legal team who were at the Supreme Court indicate that the Attorney General's office was also actually directed to ensure that they prosecute people whose behaviors have result from maybe fraud or which can be said to be criminal. So those issues that have criminality involved in them, the Attorney General was also directed, just as I was directed to do the civil side.
Right.
We are waiting to see the full judgment. I've requested for it, and when I see the full judgment, we will know the way forward.
Right. We're grateful, sir, for your time. Daniel Owusu is the Auditor General of Ghana. Let's quickly go on to Skype now. Nana Sapon is joining us. Nana Sapon is with Occupy Ghana. Good evening, sir. Thank you. I know that Occupy Ghana has been on this for quite some time now. Over 2 years, you told me earlier this evening that you've been pursuing this for 2 years. So now that you have a judgment, you must be happy, aren't you?
Yeah, and thank you very much. Sorry, the name is Nana Sapon Ajimanbedu, not Nana Sapon.
Thank you very much for the correction.
Hello?
Yes, thank you very much for the correction.
Very well. Okay, yeah, we are very, very excited and very...
Right, Nanayao.
Related.
Right, we have some...
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. You were breaking, so yeah, let's see whether we get the clearer communications from you.
Okay, yeah, I'm saying we are quite excited and elated about this judgment from the Supreme Court. You know, it's not coming, but finally we have finality on the issue. So I think now we can move forward on this issue of surcharge and this allowance. Start getting some money for the states, you know, and get some cash for some of the things they've been doing with state funds.
So now that this judgment has been secured, I want to find out from you what your expectations are in terms of timelines of wanting to see the Auditor General go ahead quickly to implement this directive, and also possibly the kind of communication or interaction you want to see from the Attorney General's Department and the Auditor General's Department to expedite this order.
Yeah, I mean, we would be happy and we would be expecting at least some certificates of surcharge, let's say within the year.
Right. We do sincerely apologize for the bad communication. We're getting a pretty bad line from Nana Sapong Ajimambedu, but we'll take a break here. This is News at 10. You can hear us on 3FM 92.7 as well, and we're streaming live on 3news.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, all campuses of the University of Education, Winneba, have been closed down following a court ruling that some actions taken by the school's council were illegal. According to a press statement signed by the registrar of the school, all of its campuses will remain closed until Friday, June 16. Let's quickly now speak with the president, national president of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, Dr. Harry Agbanu. Good evening, sir. We're grateful that you could make time to join us.
Good evening. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for the opportunity once again.
Yes, it's a privilege. Now, the case of the University of Education, Winneba, we want to find out from you, when UTAG last visited the president of Ghana, you appealed for the reconstitution of university councils. That was, I reckon, before this ruling. What has happened to that appeal?
Thank you. Nothing has happened so far. We've been checking and calling on the Minister of Education to find out what the situation is. He appears not to be sure of what is going on. At the point, he felt that the lists were presented to the Council of State and that they were waiting on the Council of State to release the list. But my checks with the Council of State indicates that no list has reached them even yet. So we don't know when, councils will be constituted for our institutions.
And do you have an idea of why the delays or why the difficulty in the constitution?
No idea. I can only hazard an idea. Either government is not too much interested in education, or that
that's a wild guess. I mean,
yes,
not interested in education?
No, because boards have been constituted for other state institutions. Why universities, public universities, cannot have councils? It's difficult to understand.
Let's understand.
6 good months.
That's right. Let's understand how critical it is for universities not to have a council. I mean, I'm sure for many of our viewers and listeners, they might not have a clearer understanding of the enormity of the absence of university councils.
The councils are the ultimate decision-making bodies of the institution.
So awards cannot be given?
Awards cannot be given.
Contracts cannot be issued?
Contracts cannot be signed. Promotions cannot be done. A lot of things. So the universities are just crippling. They cannot do anything.
Your hands are tied at your backs.
They cannot do anything without the council. And for 6 months, it's difficult to understand why a country like Ghana cannot have councils for institutions.
And I know that the case of the University of Education, Winneba, that it might appear that this is just the case in the University of Education, Winneba. But I want to understand whether this is in any way, the decision is in any way affecting where you teach, University of Ghana and other public universities across the country.
Yeah, the decision at UEW is a national one. For us as UTAG, it is an attack on, freedom, academic freedom. And therefore, we are not looking at the issue as pertaining to only Winneba. It is a national issue, and therefore we are going to confront it as such. We are not going to stay idle by for any authority, any individual to trample on the freedom.
So when you say confront it as such, should we be expecting that perhaps in protest, University of Ghana, UTAG, you'll be shutting down University of Ghana also?
No University of Ghana alone. Not that I will be shutting down. We have a National Executive Committee meeting. We are just waiting for what happens on Friday, and then we'll have a meeting to decide on what to do. I will not be able to decide for my colleagues, but I'm sure that it is a national issue, and we'll use all the venom we have to fight it.
Sounds like a threat, venom, to fight it.
Not a threat. We have vowed to ourselves that we'll do everything in our power to protect academic freedom of our institutions. We believe that the only institutions that we have that we can be proud of are educational institutions. And if we do anything to undermine them, then we are finished as a country.
I know also, finally, before I make you go, I know that UTAG, you've had quite a number of issues before the elections and before the new government was formed. You had so many issues, including championing for what is due you, research allowances and all of that to be paid. How far were the progress of all these concerns that you've had from last year through to this year?
Well, we are making headway for the book and research allowances. They are being processed for payment. We hope that by it will not be long, we'll be paid. But the other issues are standing. But thankfully, we've been able to meet with the president. We've spoken about some of these issues, and he appears to be interested in the issues. And I've asked the Minister of Education to meet with us to see how we can resolve them. So I think there is goodwill on that part.
Right, Dr. Harry Agbano, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much. Dr. Harry Agbano is the National President of the University Teachers Association. This is still News at 10. We'll be right back. Please stay. Welcome back. Now, the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has deported 63 Ghanaian nationals to Ghana and 12 Liberian nationals to Liberia. The U.S. Embassy in Accra said in a statement that it is in accordance with their final orders of removal. The deportees who arrived in Ghana on Wednesday morning aboard a chartered flight were mostly handcuffed.
According to the U.S. Embassy, the deportees were found to be either ineligible to remain in the United States for reasons including overstaying their visas or committing crimes. The removal exercise was carried out by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) as mandated by law. An order of removal, also known as an order of deportation, is a legal and enforceable order of expulsion from the United States and a suspension from returning to the U.S. for a specific period of time. It is the policy of the U.S. government to attempt to have individuals under removal orders return to their home countries by flying on regular commercial flights. ICE Air Operations conducts special charter flights to accommodate certain individuals, including those who fail to cooperate with efforts to remove them via commercial flights.
Well, I spoke earlier with research fellow at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, LESIAD, Dr. Amanda Kofi, and I began by first asking her what she makes of the way government of Ghana has handled the issue.
Well, this is not the first time deportees have arrived in this country in handcuffs. So it seems to be the accepted mode, which is quite demeaning, if you ask me. In terms of how Ghana has conducted itself with respect to the current situation, I think there's a lot and there's a lot of room for improvement. Thankfully, we know that there's supposed to be about 7,000 of them coming in, and by the last count, we probably have just over 150 that have since been deported under this new administration. So hopefully we'll learn some lessons and improve upon the way we receive our fellow Ghanaians and also how we relate to the U.S. in terms of trying to put a more human face to this condition. But there are certain international standards and certain relationships that have developed over the years that I think Ghana can take advantage of and ensure that Ghanaians are treated with a little bit more of respect.
I need to have a better understanding of the category of deportees that are usually sent in handcuffs.
I think the claim, usually by the sending country, is that sometimes some of these deportees have criminal backgrounds. And if you follow the news under the new administration, their claim is that they are not anti-immigrants, but rather they are against immigrants who have criminal backgrounds. And if you listen to it, even jumping a red light could send you packing if you are undocumented. And so the other excuse that the sending countries tend to give for reasons why they put them in handcuffs and sometimes even blindfold them is the fact that maybe the deportees refuse to return, and so they have to force them, and so they want to prevent them from harming themselves and maybe harming other passengers on board the flight.
What would you say should be the appropriate preparations on the side of the receiving country, Ghana, in handling the returnees when they get home?
I think immediately our various ministries and agencies, particularly the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Interior, the Immigration Service, should have come together when they had that announcement. If they wanted an official report from the U.S. Embassy, it was not likely going to be. They could have taken advantage of the media, the information that the ambassador had given to the media, and sought clarity on it, and put together a package. Because I think in most of these things, some of the deportees were held up in U.S. for some time before they were even put on the planes to return. So we would have had an opportunity to have visited them and inquire from them whether some of them were truly and genuinely Ghanaians. I realized that this morning they were now checking to validate whether the claims by some of them as to whether they were indeed Ghanaians or not. Secondly, I think that, look, to be uprooted from a situation, and sometimes they arrive with just the clothes on their back, and everything that they have worked so hard for is left behind. And so there's this trauma that we need to deal with, that we need to put in place measures to deal with the trauma aspect, how we even receive this. If we are not able to link up with them in the sending country, at least we should have some reception at the airport for them. And also when we do our verification, even housing them for a week or something to help them address the issue of their reintegration. Some of them have been away for almost decades, and so they know very little about the country that they are returning to. And so we have a very wonderful opportunity. And I think that even when we do that, we also get to know them and know what kind of skills they have acquired, what they're bringing in, how we can help them reintegrate. And I'm telling you, Steve, I think that we have this lens that they are coming in to be a burden. Most of them have skills and resources that we can benefit from if we bring together a program that can harness that.
And President Akufo-Addo has suggested an amendment of the Constitution to allow Parliament to exercise authority over public finances. The President made the suggestion when he was delivering a speech on the theme Ghana, the Rising Star of Africa at an event organized by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Berlin, Germany.
President Akufo-Addo expressed concern over the inability of Parliament to exercise oversight role on the public expenditure of the executive arm of government, suggesting an amendment of the Constitution.
I belong to the group that feels strongly that our Parliament should be able to exercise full authority over our public finances, and we should accordingly amend our Constitution to make this possible. If this were done, it would enhance significantly Parliament's oversight capacity.
On the role of the judiciary, the President gave an assurance of measures to restore its image.
I'm confident the future Chief Justice Sofia Akufo will be an effective leader of the judiciary and guard jealously its independence. She will bring honor to the judiciary and to our country.
Talking about the media, President Akufo-Addo said although it has been vibrant, there is a need for continuous training of practitioners, which is key to enhancing national development.
It is a loud and crowded media that we now have, and some feel that many journalists are on the side of recklessness. There is a lot to teach and to train those who practice journalism in our country. But I must say, I would much rather have the loud and reckless media than the meek and praise-singing one that used to characterize our newspapers, radio, and television.
That's it for News at 10. Thank you for staying. There is more news at 3news.com. And for those of you who tuned in to 3FM 92.7 to listen to News at 10, thank you for leaving your dial there. On behalf of the crew here, good night.